Hello and welcome to our 10-minute guide to Turtle Mage. After Eddie's performance at the Grandmasters in mid-August, this deck moved from kind of a pure meme status into something that's quite real. There's never been a traditional prison deck in Hearthstone before. Prison deck differing from a combo deck, as a combo deck will kind of finish in one fell swoop, but a prison deck seeks to lock our opponent out of the game, preventing them from playing their cards or manipulating with the fundamental game rules in some way. Will this deck remain untouched? We'll see. You know, Ridiculous Hat had a really good point on one of his podcasts where Hearthstone is fundamentally about dragging our little ovals into our opponent's little ovals. And that's part of the fun. It's part of the kinesthetics of the game. And Turtle Mage prevents our opponents from doing that. Just a quick plug for the Coin Concede podcast and the Data Reaper podcast. Those are both fantastic listens if you enjoy good Hearthstone content. So because of this unfortunate play pattern, it'll be interesting to see if the developers leave it untouched. But despite it, it's still fairly vulnerable deck, and it's difficult to pilot, especially if the game goes on and on and on. It's fairly easy to establish the lock, but it can be difficult to hold on to the lock as you prep for the finishing combo. Intense concentration can be needed over a sustained period of time as you whittle your opponent down. And the combo itself is not a one-turn kill. You're using your mages to deal 4 damage at a time over a couple periods of turns, so it can be a big burst, but more often than not, it's still a grindy finish. If you hate Turtle Mage, I may still recommend that you watch this video, as you'll learn definitely what we're facing on our side of the board and how best to beat us. Our list is fairly straightforward, and it's a great example of how the best defense can often be a good offense. We play kind of a tempo Hearthstone early game where we want to play a 1-drop, 2-drop, 3-drop. We play things like Violet Spellwing, Wandmaker, Firebrand as a way to control the early game and lead into kind of our hold cards, if you will, like Imprisoned Observer, Bone Wraith, Cartoot Defender, and Jandis, cards that hold our tempo until we get to our lock turns. So because we're fighting for the board, we don't play Doomsayers anymore. Doomsayers are out. We want the board, so we don't want to destroy everything on it. I also want to give a shout out to Frozen Shadow Weaver. This single card changes the Bomb Warrior and Soul Demon Hunter matchup from heavily unfavored into even or maybe even favored, as turtles can't freeze their face, and this is where all of the damage comes from these two decks. And so using Frozen Shadow Weaver to freeze them, their character again and again and again prevents them from dealing almost any damage. Polkelt and Sphere of Sapience are two important cards to this deck, as they set up our combo and allow us to hold the combo. So Sphere of Sapience, as we are drawing through our deck, and if we hit any of our combo pieces, we can just stick it right back onto the bottom of the deck, and we don't have to worry about having that card in hand when we want to cast it from our deck. Polkelt orders our card, so we make sure that we draw our turtles and into our combo, but we want to be careful and not always play him on curve, as if we're fighting to survive, we might not want to draw an 8-drop, an 8-drop, a 7-drop, etc. Mulliganing is fairly straightforward. Unless it's a very aggressive deck, we'll want to keep our turtle, we'll want to keep Sphere of Sapience, we'll want to keep Polkelt, as this makes sure that when the lock turns are ready to go, we can play them. Otherwise, we want to keep our early game minions. Firebrand is great at flipping the board. Violet Spellwing is a fantastic turn one play, as it causes a lot of pressure with just a single card. Imprisoned Observer can be great, so very similar to Tempo Mage. Depending on the matchup, we want to keep the cards that are going to make sure that we can seize that early game tempo. After a good, healthy early game tempo start, we'll hopefully be in a relatively safe space come turn 8, 9, or 10 to start establishing our lock. Our turtles inspire dread, and it is great to see our opponent realize they're facing Turtle Mage and try to rush when we have our lock ready to go in hand. So one very important tip is that we always want to order our minions from left to right across the board. This ensures that when the turtle comes down and Potion of Illusion is played, they're placed back into our hand in the same order as they appear on the board. So we'll always have a very easy visual representation, understanding which card is going to end up where in our hand and which cards are not going to make it back into our hand due to hand size. There is no substitution for practice when it comes to this deck. I urge you to get out there if you want to learn and just do some reps and don't get frustrated when you mess it up, because it just takes time. But once you get there, it can feel buttery smooth. So to give you a little bit of a jump start, we'll want to make sure to always follow the tip mentioned just before, where we're ordering our minions from left to right. And then some general rules are, if it's turn 8 with 1 turtle, or turn 7 with coin, if we're safe, we can play that turtle and potion it back into our hand, and then we have a 1 mana turtle, and we're basically good to go, because the following turn we can play 1 mana turtle, potion, 1 mana turtle, potion, 1 mana turtle, freeze, and we're already well on our way to establishing the lock with our freeze again and again and again, while having the 1 mana turtles in hand. If we're not safe, though, we want to continue trying to stabilize as best as possible, and we don't want to give up our turtle right away, because if we play our turtle, freeze the board, and then it dies somehow, and we don't have a backup turtle in our hand, the lock is over. So turn 9 or turn 8 with coin is basically the same as turn 7. We can't establish the lock without 10 mana. I think that's really important to say. So turn 9 is the same, that if we're safe, we can try to play the turtle and potion it back in our hand, but if we're still stabilizing, it might not be worth to risk your turtles out on board. But then turn 10 is when we can establish the combo with just a single turtle, where we go turtle for 8 mana, and play the potion with that 1 mana turtle that's back into our hand, play that one, and now we potion again, and we got 2 turtles in our hand, play a 1 mana turtle for 10 mana, and then that's the total of the 10 mana, and we freeze our opponent's board, and then we have 1 turtle remaining in our hand with 1 mana, and our opponent's board is freezing, and we go from there. If we have 2 turtles, we can be a little bit riskier above, because we can attempt to play a turtle down, freeze our opponent's board, and if they do manage to kill it, which they do usually, then we have our backup turtle to try again on the next turn. Once the lock is established, we have to start understanding what our own internal clock is before we draw ourselves out of our combo pieces, as well as understanding what clock we need to start knocking down the opponent. Sometimes we're just hitting them with 1/1s until they die. A lot of times we're going to have to ping our own 1/1s to get them off the board to free up board space so that we continue our freeze effect every turn. Every turn we're likely going to need to play a freeze effect, and we oftentimes need to play a freeze effect and potion cards back to our hand. This is where the left to right order minioning is so important, as we can know what cards we're getting back. We always want to make sure we have a 1 mana turtle back into our hand. We're also going to need to play some trickery sometimes in order to save ourselves, like, play a 1/1 Cartoot Defender and ping it to get 3 health back. That certainly happens sometimes. Freezing our opponent's face with Shadow Weaver, that'll need to happen a lot versus Soul DH and Bomb Warrior. And we can really clunk our hands up with things like Reborn minions, which don't leave the board, or mirror image tokens, which we can't even attack with, so they just stay on the board, continuously getting copied back into our hand. This is stuff that becomes very difficult, that we can try to explain, but really there's no substitute for practice. So once we have the combo pieces in hand, we can start really pressuring our opponent. The pieces we need are Sunreaver Warmage, Blizzard, and a 1 mana turtle. So play the Warmage for 5 mana, dealing 4 damage to our opponent's face or the board if needed. We play a turtle, copying them back into our hand. So we spent 6 mana so far. Then we play our Warmage copy, and then another turtle potion, spending 8 mana, and then we play another turtle, freezing the board. And at this point, we spent 9 mana, and we end up with a 1 mana Warmage and a 1 mana turtle in our hand, ready to establish and continue the combo for the next turn. Please remember to not give up if you do draw your combo pieces out of your deck. We still have a lot of strong cards in here. Potion of Illusion works quite well in this deck, even when played from hand. And we have Solarian Prime in here, so sometimes she can just carry the game for us. In conclusion, this deck feels what I imagine Shutterwalk used to feel like, and it makes me tempted to craft Shutterwalk for Wild. This deck is really fun, and once you have base competency established, this deck feels butter smooth and super strong. Thanks so much for your time today. If you like, please leave a comment, subscribe, like the video. It's all really appreciated. Thanks. Bye-bye.